Hi, I'm Lindsay from Shreve Memorial Library and welcome to Art Club. Today we're going to make a painting that we did back when the library still had programs. It'll happen again, I promise, at some point. This is a painting by George Seurat. If you came to an art club, this might look familiar. The name of the painting is Seine à la Grande Jatte. It means Sunday on La Grande Jatte, which is in France. It's also the setting of Seurat's most famous painting, which I will post. I think it's called Sunday Afternoon on La Grande Jatte, which I will post right now here. Okay, you might recognize that. That painting is ginormous. I have seen it in person, and it just kind of blew me away. It's at the Art Institute in Chicago, and I was just like, oh my gosh. Anyway. So I really like Seurat. This is an example of pointillism. This is kind of the art movement that he started and why he's famous. It's an offshoot of Impressionism and was happening around the same time as Impressionism. Seurat was born in 1856 and he died in 1891. He was one of those young deaths. There are a lot of them around that time. He had some sort of illness. Anyway, but he employed a scientific method with art, and that is the prevailing science of the day was like, oh, so you can see different dots of color, and then when you step away, it looks like it's, one color. Yeah, I know that seems like nothing today, but they really just discovered that back in the day. This is also, remember, the time shortly after cameras became available, and so people were like, oh, it doesn't need to be entirely realistic because we can just take a picture. So anyway, Seurat was one of those big revolutionaries with this pointillism, and we're going to work on it today. What you'll need is a pencil and an eraser, or a pencil with an eraser. And today we're going to use, with watercolor, we're going to use Q-tips. I know. See, these are completely legit in art. They really are. We just don't generally use them for art club, except we did use them when we did this painting before. Also, I have a little paintbrush. If you see the little guy in the boat in the foreground, you'll need a smaller paintbrush to get dots that tiny, but the rest is going to be done in Q-tip. So I have this one too. You'll need some sort of paper. I have watercolor paper because I'm watercoloring, and you'll need something to color. Markers will work well for this. You might get frustrated if you're using crayons or colored pencils or something like that, but go to if that's what you have. And yeah, let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is draw this in very lightly. I am going to grab a straight edge. I'll just use watercolor paper, I think, for this one. Yeah, that's long enough. You can use a ruler or whatever, or else you can just freehand it. It'll be perfectly fine. So the first line that I notice on here is about at the halfway point. So I'm going to eyeball where the halfway point is and make a straight line across. Do this lightly so it doesn't show up, or else go back and erase it later. You might want to do it more lightly than I am. I just want to make sure that you can see it. So this is the bottom of the beach, okay? And then I'm going to do this, and this is slightly angled. I'm going to do it from the top so I can see exactly what's going on. It's slightly angled. It's a little bit bigger on the left side than it is on the right. So I'm going to draw this line, okay? And then there's this other kind of slopey line that I'm going to draw. It goes from about here to about there. I'm not going to use a straight edge for that. I'm just going to do it as smoothly as I can. Okay. Next, let's see. Let's do the boat. The boat starts, or the sail. Let's worry about the sail first. The sail goes from about here to here. So I'm going to draw a straight-ish line, all right? And this slopes down here, and this comes up here. This looks a little bit bigger, but that's okay. And then we have this one is not as tall, and it comes down about there and there, and a line across. And then we have the boat. It's about like that. Really narrow, just the part that's sticking out of the water. And then you're going to want to go back and erase the lines in here. And then we want this white because since we're watercoloring, we're just going to leave this part white. We're going to be as careful as we can when we paint it and just leave this part alone, and it will be bright white. So the better you can get these lines up for this out for the sails, the better. Anyway, okay. So there's this boat. Let's do the tree. So this thing right here goes from about here, this is the roots, to about there. And then the tree comes up to about here. Yeah, it's about straight up and down. It kind of goes that way. And then this is down here. It's going to meet about at that point with a V. The cats are playing on the love seat in my library. That's the sound. It is fabric and upholstery being destroyed. Okay, so we have this. This goes up a little bit like that, and it arches a little bit and comes down right there. And this is thinner. It goes like that. And comes down, not that thin. Remember the rule with trees and such. What is that? The rule with trees and such is that they have to be wider at the bottom than they are at the top. So don't let them get too narrow. So this comes down here, goes out a little bit, and then down. And over here we have from about here up to about this line like that. And this is just coming from another tree. And you're going to want to erase these lines just like you did with that boat. You don't have to be as careful though because they are not going to be white. I guess down here you could leave white if you want to. Okay, so over here this kind of comes up like that. And I'm only drawing the parts of it that you can see. So I'm going to do that though too. And then like that kind of. Right? And then it just, the canopy comes down there. Okay, I'm going to skip this stuff because that would be really hard, like the spidery bits. So let's draw this part here, and this is just stuff we're going to fill in with dots, so do it lightly. It doesn't have to be exact, just kind of follow the lines of it. I'm going to say it stops there. You can still see it. Okay, so I'm going to draw, let's see, this line of trees and such. Note it gets shorter the farther it gets over here. And it is not straight, so do this, just kind of do it in the best you can. And then comes down, and over here, I'll say. Okay. Yeah. And then the tree, this tree, starts about here, leaves some sky, and then it kind of goes up here. I'm going to erase this bit just so we don't get confused. All of this is going to be filled in with little Q-tip dots. Okay, so one thing that I do since we do these, when we do these virtually, is I add a little bit more detail than when I do these programs in person, So here's the little bit extra detail we're going to put in this building. Okay, I'm going to start, let's see, there's about here, there's a line, and here, and there, and that's the part on the left. You can kind of see some windows or something in there, but I'm not going to mess with that part. And then a little bit higher than that is this, and it goes, there's like a tree growing over part of it. Okay, and then this is red, and above the trees right here and right above this part or so is 2 lines and a dome over it, and that's going to be red. And then this part, actually I need to, this is some ridiculousness right here. This just, that needs to do that. Yeah, let's erase this so we don't get confused. Is this little guy and kayak looking thing. So first thing I'm going to do is draw the kayak, and it is just really thin line. Okay, and then the guy, it's he's in the middle. He's in the middle, and his back arches, he's rowing, right? And then his head looking down, and then we see his sleeve. Can you see this? We're not doing that much detail. Okay, there's his sleeve, and then there's the rest of his body, and then his hand kind of runs into what I assume is the oar here. So I'm just gonna do that, and when I drew it earlier it looked real weird, just that. So I'm gonna add that little demarcation because it looked really weird until I changed it in the traceable. Anyway, so there's this guy, and I do believe, yeah, that's it for the drawing portion. What I'm going to do now is lightly erase all of it so the lines don't stick out as much. You don't have to do this part. Just be sure you, if you do, just be sure you can still see the stuff well enough so you know where to paint. Because, I mean, this is, what we just did was just guidelines. We're not going to be inking anything or anything like that today. So just get some of the graphite off till you can still see it, and then we'll get to painting. When I did this painting in person at the library, there was a lot of variation in the amount of detail that people put into it, and I will say that my favorites really just added a lot of detail. Some of them even did the whole thing with a little paintbrush, which is not something I would have the patience to do, but I admire their patience. But a lot of them had really overlapping dots, which isn't what I'm going to do today. But just keep in mind as you're doing this, you can make this as detailed as you want. I'm doing a really simple version, but that doesn't mean you have to. Also, if you'd rather not use Q-tips or you don't have those around, don't use Q-tips. It's fine. Just use a paintbrush and paint it like normal. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So, here's what I'm going to do. I am going to be wetting the paint with a brush so I can get this out, and I'm probably going to put a lot of it in pans. So, I'm going to start with the blue. I will use this blue here. I'm going to wet my paint. Make sure you can see it. The cat's blocking it. There we go. Okay, I'm going to put it in this blue pan because it already has blue in it. Really, this blue would be better, but it's really hard to get that blue to be very pigmented for me. So we are going to do it this way. I'm going to go put a good bit of water in it. Okay, so I have my pan of blue. I'm going to do, oh, and I got it on my painting already. Great. Nothing. This is just adding variety to our pointless painting. Okay, So I'm going to get some water on my Q-tip, I'm going to get some paint, and I'm going to start going. I'm going to do, this is pretty dark, I'm going to add some more water to it before I do the sky, so I'm just going to do the water area. You can add more color variation in it if you want to. There's definitely some red in there. This is, you know, little dots of a lot of different colors, but I'm doing blue right now. So all I'm going to do is get my Q-tip and do this number just like that, and when it starts getting like fuzzy or something like that, I'll flip it over, and then once it's fuzzy on both sides, I'll just get a new Q-tip. So that is my plan. I'm gonna do the blue of this first. Be careful to avoid the white of the boat or else you won't have a good time. If you're worried about getting paint in there, I mean, don't worry about getting a little bit, but if you're worried about getting paint in there, you can use a little brush to do the points in there. I think I'm going to brave it, but I'm going to do it with a fresh Q-tip. So I didn't acknowledge that little line right there, so don't go all the way up like I did. I just fixed it as best I could. It will just be some variety when I do the yellow up here, but don't do what I just did or else you'll be unhappy about it like I am. Okay, here we go. This is the water. It really makes this stuff not stand out. So I want to go ahead and get that red in. Where's my little paintbrush? What I'm going to do this is I'm going to get some red paint, like some really potent red paint. There we go. Okay, I'm going to do this first, and I'm just going to do little dots for it, but see how tiny they are? I mean, it really works to fill it in. It's almost as if I painted it. It's just kind of like not straight. I'm going to do this for the sailboat and this little kayak thing. I'm already feeling better about this situation. Another thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and do this dome and this top roof. I'll just do them in the same way. Much better already. Next, let's go ahead and get the sky. When you get close to here, be very careful because we really don't want them running in together. What I'm doing here for the sky is I'm getting more blue, but I'm adding a lot more white than I did with the water. And for me, that is a lot, I mean white, a lot more, yeah, water. That's a lot more because this paint is so potent. Better. Okay. And I'm going to dot the sky, all of the places that aren't full of trees. You can also, and we can go back and do this later too, do a little bit in the tree. You don't need to do that right now. Use this same one, and then let's do this, and don't worry, see how much lighter this is? Don't worry about, ooh, that's not that much lighter. About the, you know, like exactly where you're putting it or anything like that, or even here you can run it up into the tree. That's great because that's what the painting looks like and it is more, you know, accurate to nature. Just be very careful around this red so you don't end up having stuff run together. It'll be a miracle if I don't. Okay, there we go. Okay, there's our sky. I went ahead and put some in the tree, and I ran this up so we can tell the difference between this overhanging tree and this tree. And there's that. Now we can start with the green. And let's see, that's I'm going to use my yellowy green is just this one. I'm going to make a big pan of it. I'm going to have to clean this palette. Okay. I'm just going to put a lot of this up in there. So we have a lot of green to paint in there. Get some water. Always test your watercolors to make sure you like the color they are. A little bit more. I noticed when we just did the blue, this takes a lot of paint. So just get a good bit of it going. It'll be easier. Okay. So now I'm going to use a new Q-tip. And make sure you can see this. That, and just start with there we go. Start with the green, and I'm going to do up here and down here. And then I'm going to just make it a little darker to do over here. There's that green. I'm going to add some of this blue. I'm going to make the green pretty pigmented. Make sure you can see this. I'm going to add some blue. Darken it. I still want it to be a green. I want it to be darker. Now we can totally mix this on the page. I mean, in a lot of ways he did. Or Seurat did, because by using different colored dots. We're going to go back and put in a few like accent things, but if you want to go in with just green and just blue, it will totally work. Okay, another Q-tip. I get my darker green. I go in here and do this. I'm going to avoid my building. There's my darker green. So next, let's tackle the yellow. So this is a yellow ochre. You can use regular yellow. I'm going to use, well, kind of a yellow ochre. It's kind of a yellow ochre with some red. So we'll put some red in later. But for now, I'm just going to do yellow ochre. And I'm going to have to clean out this pan. Okay, I'm going to get yellow ochre. Using yellow is perfectly fine. If you want to make your yellow into closer to a yellow ochre, all you need to do is add a little bit of brown to it. So I'm just going to put it in here. And do that and get some water. And then, let's see, it looks good. And I'm going to paint the beach. There's my beach. I am going to add a little bit more water to my yellow ochre, and I'm going to see this part of the building, because the other part of it is white, but this part is not white. So I'm going to get some yellow ochre onto it. Okay. So now let's do the trees. So at the top of the trees, you see how he kind of does this. You can do it with brown. We're not going to do it with brown. So until the shadow line, that's a pretty purpley color, isn't it? So I'm going to do a bluey purple color. And I don't have a purple here, so I'm going to get some blue. Oh, that's a lot of blue. It's a very strong blue. And I have a pinky red, and if you have a pinky red or a pink, those usually make the best purples. Although if you just have red, red is fine too. So here's a purple. Okay. Ooh, that's a potent purple. So what I'm going to do is get a Q-tip and very carefully go with my purple and do the branches, and I guess I'll mark on here where I'm going to end the shadows. They're about here, light lines, and there. And until there, I'm going to paint them purple. And really, the bottom of them are pretty close to that lightened beach color, like is up at the, about here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to paint these that color. Remember, watercolor dries lighter than it is when you put it on. Okay, now we have the basic colors of the painting. Okay, now you see in Seurat's painting, now he did this in oils, which seems like a really big challenge. And remember, they were really big, so the paint strokes weren't that tiny, but still, this would take a massive amount of patience to do the whole thing. But we're going to go in, we have the base colors in, and we're going to go in and we're going to add some accent colors. For instance, I'm going to get some blue. See this blue, I'll put it here. And yeah, we'll just leave it blue for right now. I got some of this blue, and I am going to, this is very, very potent blue, add some shadows down here with the blue. See how this is working? Okay, and I'm also going to go add some more shadows up here with blue. It's really potent blue up here. And the higher up, the darker everything is. And the blue on this purple darkens it. Oh, I forgot. Did I miss one? Oh, I did. Oh well. We'll just make that one up there. And this is pretty dark. It's already already pretty dark. Okay, we're gonna leave that. Okay. We also, I'm gonna call this purple. I'm gonna get some purple and very carefully. Yeah, I'm gonna do this with a brush. With my brush, I'm gonna get purple, and you can kind of see windows up here, so I'm just gonna put in windows like that. I think there's one down here, and there's one over here. Okay, you can do as much or as little of this with paintbrush as you want to. There's also this line along the beach that's darker. I'm going to do it in purple. See how it's darker than the rest of it, so I'm going to go in and just do a line of purple and darken up the green at the beach line. Okay, there's also some here, so I'm going to do about right here. And this comes down along the side of the tree some. And there's some like little shadows in there. Also a little bit very lightly around the bottom of the beach. At this point you don't have to keep going. This is just kind of bonus details. You notice there's also some red in the water, like under here, reflections from there. So I'm going to do that, but I'm going to use really a diluted red, because this is a pretty potent red I have here. In fact, I'm going to do that number. And I'm not going to put much red. I'm just going to put a little. Good. Well, let's see. Yeah, I'm just going to add a hint. Like over here and some down here. And just the weakest hint of a reflection in these white spots. Oh, we forgot our guy down here. Okay, this is the part. Oh, I got that blue spot in his shirt, but you know, that is what it is. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do his shirt with this yellow ochre because that's about the same color. All right. And we're gonna put him down here. His shirt has blue in it, but that's okay. It's value added. Okay, so there's his body. And his hair is very dark, and that kind of looks like purple. So I'm gonna get purple and do this. I'm just gonna make it that it's not enough purple to do anything. I'll add a little bit of red, not that much. It's too much red. I don't want it that red. Okay, I'm trying not to just come in and do brown right there. That's what my head wants to do. Okay. Some blue. His head is not going to be blue, don't worry. I'm just going to, let's see. The answer is potent purple, and so I'm just going to go ahead and make myself do that. There's red, blue, and make this really potent. You see how this purple, I just used like the red. You see how this purple is vastly different from that purple? Like, I will show you. So here's the purple that we made with the other, and here's this kind of gray color. You see why the pink makes better purple than the red? Yeah, it's a huge difference. Anyway, I'm gonna go in and do his head, and this is way better. There we go. Now his head is right. Okay, and let's see, for his arms and the aura, it's kind of like an orangey color. So what I'm gonna do is have my yellow ochre there, and I'm gonna add a wee touch of red. More. Okay, I'm gonna do his arm, which is not potent enough. That's not wee anymore, is it? Some more yellow ochre. That's such a potent red. This is making an interesting pink, isn't it? Those aren't two colors that I mix together often. That'll do. And I'm gonna paint his arm right there, and that is not too bad. Okay. I've got some red in there. I'm gonna go and add just a wee bit of this lighter purple in on some places in the water to show some shadows. Like in the painting, I'm gonna darken that. You can also do this with blue. I'm just doing it with purple for some variety. Remember, you can do whatever you want in your painting. That's up to you. Also gonna do down here just to add shadow underneath. Okay. Looks like there's a little bit of shadow between these two sails. And next I'm gonna get some, actually this weirdo color that I made looks really perfect to add to the trees. So I'm gonna add a little bit up here. You see how that's like really the same color, and it's going on at the tops of these things. So I'll put some up here, over here too. And maybe it's about to turn fall? I don't know, but we're definitely reading trees out of this. So just put some of these in here, up here, and this is giving these a little bit more shape too, isn't it? Okay, just have like some sprinkled around. Get it up here. On the top up here, and these. Okay, also gonna go back with a little bit of blue. It's dried. A little more. And do some blue up here. And over here. Back behind here. You see, you can add as much of this as you want. As much little details. It'll make your painting more interesting and not like monotone. So over here. And the best way to look at these once you're done is really to step back. Yeah. Yeah. I think that looks pretty nice. I think I'm okay with that. Okay. I'm going to call this done. You can, again, add as much or as little detail as you want. Don't feel like yours needs to look like mine. I think this looks pretty cool, though. So all I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a little paintbrush and I'm going to get that darker potent purple right here. I'm going to sign it. Don't forget to sign your paintings. Okay. And there it is. La Seine à la Grande Jatte. Sunday on La Grande Jatte from France, painted in 1888. I hope you like this. I hope you had a good time doing it. This is definitely like for me anyway, this is a really low stress painting because, I mean, really we were just making dots with Q-tips. A very, very simple drawing and then a bunch of Q-tip drops, or dots. So peel off your tape very slowly and carefully so you don't rip your paper and get mad. Okay, and if you painted along with me or colored along with me or whatever, please take a picture and send your work to the library social media. We love to see what you do. And yeah, thank you for joining me for this week's art club. I will see you next week and we will do more art. Bye.